In any job, isn't it? You'll have people that do the job and they're good at the job, but they're not good at that social bit. And actually that social bit, I would say,
It's everything.
is better than the skill set behind it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can probably not be the best coach, but if you've got an amazing way of connecting with people, that in essence makes you a great coach.
Yeah, it does. The reason I got into coaching, I don't know, I won't name drop him because he's actually got quite a large following on Instagram. But he was coaching at a gym that I used to go to, and he was with his client, and I was with my mate at the time, who I used to work with. He was on his phone while his client was doing his set, and I thought, that's pretty crap.
Yeah.
And then one of his mates came in, and his client just sort of like parked the weights and sort of sat there like awkwardly, and then he went, "All right, dickhead," over the entire gym, went to see his mate and have a chat with him. And I remember looking at my mate and thinking, he's probably getting paid 40 quid for that.
Yeah.
I can get paid 40 quid. I could jump into that session right now,
Yeah.
and do a way better job than him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how life goes, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I can do this better now. So yeah, and I just remember thinking, I think there's so many bad PTs. This is a real problem I have, is people don't know what they're talking about, or they're just not good people. If you go to a gym, this is one of the issues that we've had. You go to a gym, that PT is paying rent. But if you're paying rent and you have clients and you're supporting yourself, it doesn't matter who you are. You could be anyone, and there's nothing keeping you in check for your professional standards.
Oh, yeah,
So you can be a terrible
person.
person and a narcissist, and you can be a bully, and you can still be a PT. And actually it attracts that type of personality because it's very look at me sort of energy. It can be.
Yeah.
And then those people, that's why it's such a high turnover, because you get a lot of those people who think it's just like, I train, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
There's no professional standards to actually check, do you know what you're doing? There's no one testing you, there's no one keeping you in line, and you can just behave however you like to all the people around you. And
that's quite worrying as well,
it's quite
isn't it?
worrying.
From like a female perspective of, you're you're quite vulnerable because you're becoming a beginner at something. It's physical, so people need to kind of maybe get close to you. If that's not vetted,
no. And it's challenging as someone who takes pride in their job to see that and be like, how are people, this is the difficult thing, how are people going to figure out that I'm one of the good ones?
Yeah.
Because there's so many bad ones. Honestly, there's so many awful people doing PT.
I wonder why. Do you think it's just like you say, it's an easy?
I think it's a low barrier to entry.
Yeah. And
you
it
can
attracts that ego of like, ugh.
Yeah, I train a little bit. I like, I just want to do this. I want to hang out in a gym. And the course is really easy to pass. Should be much harder. Should be. The course is also terrible. So at the point that you see someone a qualified PT, means nothing. It's just to get insured.
It is scary because I think
it's such an important job.
Yeah.
I think it's actually such an important job. You're really responsible. If I'm teaching someone how to hinge, I'm teaching someone how to pick things up off the floor properly that will last them for their entire life.
Yeah.
If I teach you that now, that's going to keep your body moving well for the rest of your life. If I teach you how to squat, you can sit up out of the toilet and look after yourself when you're older.
Yeah.
And you have these understandings. I'm actually teaching you something really important. I'm taking care of not just now, but your life.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And that's how different PTs do different things. Nutrition, that's dead important. And other PTs do bodybuilding, cool. Everyone has their niche, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, I'm like, I'm a movement guy. I understand how things move and how people move. If you're not taking care of, if you're not really into it, and I see some people trying to teach some of the movements that I'm trying to teach, and I really do know what I'm on about, and I look at them and I'm like, you don't, you're teaching them wrong.
Yeah.
But there's no mechanism to go, let's have a little bit of training, let's have a little bit of input, because once you're paying your rent, you're in.
And I suppose there's you want a PT that cares as well, because I think there is a bit of an emotional roller coaster with anything learning, that when it gets hard, depending on what personality you're training, they could easily tap out. So I think if someone really cares about you and your progress, I feel like that person is going to show up more than someone that is just going to be a bit robotic with the way they train people.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic of conversation actually, is understanding people's different personality types. And there are people, and I've made my own mistakes here. There are people, I still make mistakes. When certain people are depressed and they need boosting, and they need me to get in their face, come on, we can do this, let's go.
Yeah.
But someone else might walk away and be over agitated and over anxious.
Yeah.
And then they've just gone way past
much.
And it's too much. And so knowing how to push and pull, it takes real emotional intelligence, I think. So there's so much that goes into it to be someone's coach.
Yeah.
And I just think it's given away.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
It's kind of scary as well.
I'm kind of waging war on shit PTs, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how I'm waging war? Doing it for free.
Okay.
I kind of want to do it for free.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a paid thing. I want to show off my good coaching in a way. But I'm also moving away from it a little bit. I don't know, I'm kind of, this creative endeavor is like now making my brain work in different ways where I'm like, I don't want to play this game sort of thing. I want to do my own thing.
What is the creative, like, me interest in music and art and
storytelling?
So it's storytelling. Preaching to the converted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there like a day where you went, this is what I want to do? What was the day where you started, this is going to be a podcast, this is going to be a YouTube channel?
So it was quite a natural progression really, in that I started making YouTube videos on construction site.
Yeah.
And I was a massive fan of Casey Neistat, and watched his daily vlogs and was like, it's quite interesting me being on a construction site and never working with another woman, and just there's a lot going on a construction site, and I'm like, there's a story here. And I wasn't making films because I decided I didn't really want to act, but then I didn't really have the chops to direct, and it would mean going back to film school. So I was like, I'll just make mini films at work, and it doesn't cost anything. And it was a time where YouTube was really taking off, and I loved that, but I didn't involve people on site because I was always secretly filming. And then towards the end of my career, I was like, it doesn't serve me. The job didn't serve me anymore. The engineering, there is no creativity in it. I loved the people, but that only lasted so long. And then I kind of switched and was like, there's other stories out there as well as mine that are really important, but I think I'd make a good job at being able to tell those stories. And I think this film, like the itch of filmmaking and storytelling has always been there. So it was quite a natural progression. Like I couldn't spend as much time in construction anyway because I'd got 2 little ones now. Physically, like I couldn't get the sledgehammer out and peg in like a mile of road, like it would have killed me. Whereas in my 20s, I was just like, I was never jacked, but I could definitely like, smash out some stuff and steal pins, like it was all part of the job. So physically I was like, and it just felt like a real nice transition. And I'm still in the mix of it. Like lots of people go, oh, it's amazing you get to do this podcast like all the time. And I'm like, I still have to earn, I work 2 days a week in construction doing marketing. Again, it's a storytelling side of things. But I couldn't deny that I wanted to start the podcast and start the clothing brand, and then, the film's still there, and I'm doing now behind the scenes of me building this, because I think there's a story in everything. Yeah. So I think it's always been like a natural, I think I just pulled the plaster off and was like, I had a bit of a health scare. It turned out it was nothing, but actually it was, I went to the doctors. I had all these tests done. I was having like really closed up throat, heart palpitations, just like 9 months after Teddy, my youngest, was born. And they did all these tests and I was like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I was like, no, there's something serious that you're not finding, because nobody has heart palpitations for no reasons. No one has all this like reflux. They put me on all these tablets. I lost loads of weight. It went down to like 8 stone.
Oof.
And I put on an ECG for 48 hours, and that came back. And I said to myself, if that comes back and it's nothing, this is all up here. And I feel like I've always been quite mentally strong and deal with stress really well. Like I worked in a really high stress environment for so long, I lived off it. And then I ended up going to A&E. I said to Tom, like 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm having a heart attack. He was like, you're not. And I was like, I'm having we need to go to A&E. So we went to
I can imagine
A&E.
Tom being like, God, this is inconvenient.
He was like, can you just wait till 7? Like, I really could get a few hours sleep. Went to A&E, and there was a lovely doctor who kind of went through my notes, and he was like, he was the first person, I'm talking like a year and a bit of tests and just anxiousness, like cutting my diet down to 0, thinking it was gluten, everything. And he just went, can you just tell me what's going on, like in your world? And I was like, yeah, like I work in construction 3 days a week. I've just started a clothing brand that started to take off. And he was like, how old are your kids? I was like 5, and Teddy would have been about 18 months then. So 3 and 18 months. And we just come out of COVID. And he was like, you've got 3 jobs there. And I was like, and then I started to name all these other things that I was doing. He was like, and you've got a little one at home. And he was just like, okay, I think we just need to take stock. He was like, medically, and I was like, but these heart palpitations are real and they were horrible. They're so frightening. And he was like, I think you were on the road to complete burnout. Yeah. He was like, I think this is a very slippery slope.
Very much sounds like burnout.
Yeah, he was like, I think this is where, and I remember walking out and going, right, just what is it you want to do? That industry's not serving you anymore. It wasn't specifically the job, but it was very stressful. I was always having to prove myself, always having to
just think about it.
Yeah, show up, and always having to like fight for extra money and make sure I get paid, because I was freelance too. And I think it just got to a point where my body was like, no, start doing what's aligned with you and what lights you up, and that is not it anymore. Like it served you well, but it's not it. Yeah. And I got caught up with construction of golden handcuffs. Like it paid incredible money, and Tom and I were able to go travelling all the time, like because he has long breaks for uni. Yeah. We literally for 4 or 5 years just went travelling all the time, and then I'd come back and do a job, and then go and come back and do a job. And it kind of got into this world of ticking boxes of like a nice car, nice house, like being able to do all this stuff, like buy whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. And I was just like, oh, this doesn't.
When that doesn't, I think everyone has to go through that, don't they?
Yeah.
I went through something similar with mine, with fire service, and I took a massive pay cut. And I remember I was working in sales, and I was on a path. I stopped it early. I didn't end up earning all the money, but I was like severe depression, and I was like getting burnt out as well. I remember sitting in the Tesco's and just thinking, this isn't my life, no way. Yeah. And I always thought, if there was a movie moment of my life.
Were you looking back at yourself?
That was the point in the movie, in The Incredibles. Yeah. Where he's in a desk. I was like physically feeling it, like I was 25 to 27, I was at my physical peak, and I was there like this. And I just felt like, when he's sat at a desk, like, and he's all grey. And I remember thinking,
no.
I'm not living my life like this. And I had like a bit of a depressive sort of crisis.
But that's good at a young age, like early 20s.
I got it out of the way.
Yeah.
I got it out of the way. And I say to people, I think I see people in my life and they're earning the money, and I'm hearing them talk, and I'm like, you're me. You're just about to have your. It's not everyone.
I don't think everyone gets that point.
No, I don't think. I think certain people are cut out for 9-to-5 corporate life. Mm-hmm. I think there's some people who quite thrive in that situation. I wasn't, and I recognised it early enough. I had a proper fight with my dad over it. He really didn't want me taking any risks like that. He wanted me to have a safe, well-earning career. Yeah,
parents are like that. Even my mum says to me now, she's like, you'll start to understand that now with your kids. She was like, but your dad and I, they've never told me not to do things, but like even now, my dad's like, oh, what are you doing? Like how financially does it, like how do you make money from it? And he said it's just from a place of worry that you want your kids to be okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I know, but you took massive risks when you started your business. Like, you can't be a hypocrite. And he's like, I know. And he fights it internally because he's like, he put our house on the line when he started his business.
Wow.
So he took huge risks. I'm not doing anywhere near that. I'm just taking a pay cut risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I got to a point where we're comfortable enough, but I'm happy to just take a massive pay cut and really rein the lifestyle in, because like I feel like I can now. But he took a huge risk. We were like 3 and I think I was just born when he put the house on the line to get a loan to start the business. And then at those point, I think he said their house was like, the mortgage, the house property was like 13,000 or something crazy. But the percentage interest was like 13. And he was like, it was huge. He said, like, I had to work 2 jobs. And then, so he explains all this to me and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just really capping my salary super, super low to see if 2 or 3 years I can really make something of this. I was like, and he's like, yeah, I know, but as a parent,
yeah,
like they would love. Same with my brother. He moved in construction from medical sales. He was earning so much money. He got the flash car, all the things. Get sent to South Africa for a corporate do. He switched to my job that I was doing in construction,
right?
Because he kind of loved that vibe, and so he switched over. And I was like, do this, and he's still in it. He's a project manager now.
A lot of what is, if it matches your energy, like there's no bad jobs. It just needs to match you.
Yeah, but I think he's probably at a point now where he's looking to take big risks and do like perhaps construction projects on his own outside of a company. And I think I said this to my dad. I was like, there's something in the gene pool that we are risk takers.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't ever want that to be taken away. Whereas my mum had a 9-to-5 job for the majority of her life. I think she's quite creative, which is where I kind of get my dad's not at all creative. So I think I get that from my mum. But my dad's very inquisitive, I said to him, I was like, don't you ever get, because he had huge responsibility towards the end before he sold the company. I was like, with all this stuff that goes on, like sometimes I wake up at 3 and think, oh, this and that. I was like, you've never like shown that. And he's like, no. He said, me and my brother laugh. We say, is he just a bit simple? But he's like, when you go to bed at night, he said, I close my eyes. And it still makes me laugh. He's like, and you know those big ice cream scoops? I was like, yeah. And he's like, just like imagine yourself with an ice cream scoop and just scoop out all the bad shit and just like scoop it out. So then I just go sleep. Like, okay, I don't think that's any like proper.
I am actually mostly like that. I've been less like that recently, but I do know where he's coming from. I remember, I mostly sleep very well. I
have always until I'm hitting like perimenopausal. I think that's more a hormone thing. But yeah, I've never had trouble sleeping. But of late, like when you get a little bit more pressured later on in life, and I think he has had sleepless nights. There was a point where he almost lost everything.
Yeah.
And he gained that back, and I'm sure he's very well at covering it over. But yeah, I always find that fascinating as well, is how people deal with stress.
Yeah. I deal with stress, acute stress, very well.
You're in a massively stressful job.
But I don't find that stressful.
You don't?
I find cooking for everyone at work more stressful than the actual like death.
Saving people's lives.
That's fine. But like, it's very funny, like you put your armor on. One of my watch managers said that. You put your armor on and you're fine. And every now and again you get something and you're a bit like, oh fucking hell, like what was that?
Do you ever get dealing with, because you are dealing with life and death situations, and I had a firefighter on.
I listened to it.
Yeah.
She went again, did she?
Yeah,
she went to Grenfell, didn't she?
And I didn't realise that you guys are put in such situations where you have to deal with what I would presume would be like police. But yeah, well, I can't remember what my question was going to be. Oh yeah, do you ever get this? She said that being in the job, she had a greater appreciation for, you could wake up one morning and you don't get to go home at the end of the day, and that life is...
I think I compartmentalise that. There's some stuff I wonder, I've seen and I'm like, I've dealt with it and I'm fine, but am I going to pay for that one day? Have I seen that thing that's going to keep me up at night? There's one in particular where I watched a woman burn to death.
Oh God.
and it was the most physical pain I think I've ever seen anyone in.
Wow.
Horrible way to go. If it was an animal, you just shot it there as a mercy.
Yeah.
You just knew. And there's firefighters, we're the jocks. Police, they're just hated by everyone and they're grumpy.
Yeah.
The real heroes, if you get a good paramedic at a bad incident,
right.
it's like, whoa, they are they're the tits, they're the dog's bollocks.
Right, okay.
Honestly, if you get a really good paramedic or even like a doctor who really can control the situation, they're a bit of a beast, to be honest. I very much look up to people like that because they're the adult in the most stressful situation.
Okay. They're the one that goes, calm the shit down.
You're like, and then they go, right, you do this, this is what we're going to do, then we're going to go this, and it's like, oh, thank. Do I have a job? Yeah, you cut this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if you get given a job at something like that, it's the best thing that can happen. If you have to start figuring stuff out, that's when your head goes. So when you get a real adult, so that's what real leadership is, by the way. If someone can take control of everyone, serious professionals, he's the serious professional, or he or she is the serious professional of serious professionals in that situation. And anyway, this woman is fucked. And I remember seeing this paramedic and she was like shaking. And I was like, I emotionally checked in for a second. I was like, if you're fucking shaking, what do I do? What do I do? It was really bizarre. I remember everything about it. I remember every detail of it. It's truly traumatic, but I'm actually fine. I think the trick is being given a job. And I do think sometimes, am I just going to wake up one day and be not all right?
Like if PTSD's kind of got like a delayed effect. Maybe.
I know that there's firefighters and that's happened. Like one day they're just not all right. I've known someone that it's happened to. So I wonder, because I'm quite good at compartmentalizing. Yeah. I wonder if I do it too well and I don't deal with things. So.
Is there support in?
Yeah.
But is it support you have to seek out?
Do you know what? They're actually good for it.
Are they?
They're actually good. If I wanted it, if I went, I'm not all right, they would. There's actually a place in Wales, and if I was fucked or I had a serious injury, let's say I broke my leg and I was recovering or not doing very well, I needed rehab physically or mentally. Mm-hmm. I could go to this, it's like an old hostel that the Fire Brigade Union have bought, and it's undersubscribed. People don't use it as much as they could. And if I was like mentally not doing well because of the job, I could go, I really need some help, I really need some support. And they'd send me there. They wouldn't just send me, they'd send me and Rose. If we had kids, they would send the kids.
Oh, wow.
So there are things like that. It's quite good. But I think generally, if I wasn't all right, we take the piss all the time. But I have this feeling like if I genuinely wasn't all right, that would get broken down and then they would be really there for me. Yeah. And one of the things I hate about jobs is when they say, we're like a family. But genuinely, mine is like that. Yeah. In the most abusive way possible.
But do you not think that humour, for me, humour's been like a saviour.
Has to be, yeah.
For the shit that I've seen on sites and the physical fights that have happened in front of me and the bad stuff. I laugh about it now, and I think, and people are like, that's kind of like, some of my mates were like, Michelle, that's really sick that somebody pooed in somebody else's lunchbox and you thought that was funny. And I was like, well, it wasn't directed at me, firstly. I was like, but
that's the main thing.
Yeah, it wasn't my lunchbox.
So it's fine.
So that's hilarious. But things that could have actually really ground someone down over 17 years, I find funny, and I've started to write them in a book, and there is probably a book there because they were so unbelievable, some of the stuff that happened. Yeah. But like yours is a little bit different in that, it's life and death situation, but you do have to find a bit of dark humour to get through it, because what else do you do?
Absolutely essential. I had this sort of handshake moment with my brother years ago, because we're very good at finding things funny. And we were sort of, I think we were pissed one night, and we just sort of had this handshake sort of moment where we're like, everything's funny, isn't it? Everything's funny.
Yeah.
There is a way to find something funny.
Yeah.
I tell you, and I get myself in trouble because I can get straight to the dark humor and can get straight to it where I know other people maybe just not quite there yet.
Some people that are not ready for it.
And I'm really good at it. I'm really good at laughing at stuff. This is bad. This is really bad. But this will shed light on the scale of the issue that I have. My
Come on, Jack, you started now.
My cousin died.
Okay, well.
Very tragically. Over 10 years ago now. She was 18, she'd had problems with blokes, and she finally found a really good guy, and she was living like, she'd gone traveling to Marrakesh, and she died tragically in a gas leak at the hotel. And he ended up in a coma, and I didn't cry through any of it.
Shit.
And this is what I do. I'm an emotional blank. That's how I think I deal with it. I just turn them off completely, and I'm open to only the good stuff. And that's maybe a sign of lack of emotional maturity in some way, because I'm not able to deal with the bad stuff and not able to process it.
Yeah.
But I am very good at parking it and putting it to one side. So I'm at the funeral. My Auntie Nancy, who's just lost her daughter, is there, and she is inconsolable. My brother's right there, and he is also inconsolable because he feels things a little bit more than me. I'm a little bit more cold. And he started singing hymns, and we don't sing.
Okay.
And he was singing hymns as he was crying, and he's got a really ugly crying face, like that, and he's singing, and I'm like,
Well, are the people singing, or is it just...
we're singing.
Okay.
We're singing hymns in a church.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not in there with the what's the word? The anguish. I'm not feeling that emotion at all. I've just turned my brain off. But I am turned on to the fact that this is very, very funny. And I remember my mum looking at me like, "Are you fucking serious?" And I try not to blame myself for it. I think it's just an emotional mechanism of trauma that's gone on there, but very awkward at the same time. And I did feel it once. I did feel it when I rang Nancy, and she said, Nancy's my auntie, she's the one that lost Teddy. And she rang me and she went, "She loved you, you know." And I was like, what the fuck was that? It was like a bubble, like just almost. Okay. It was like an emotional bubble. It went and didn't pop and went back down. And then I see emotions like physical things. Like I describe that as a bubble. I can see like when someone's angry at someone as like physical daggers. Like I actually almost imagine it in my mind like that. I have a very visual brain. I'm interested. Have you ever read Confessions of a Sociopath? No. Is it good?
Or is it sociopath or psychopath? Well, I only said because I started reading it and had to stop reading it. Tom was like, "Why have you stopped reading it? You normally like smash a book out." And I was like, "Because too much resonates with me." And I have a really hard problem with, and I don't know whether it's a personality thing or whatever, but
Do you want to sit down, by the way? We're not going to lift anymore.
That's fine.
It's perfect because like...
It's like empathy. Like I am empathetic, but my mum said when I was little, you know the adverts where the children are like dying, they've got big tummies in Africa and they're like surrounded by flies. And she said, "Look at those children, how terrible is that?" Which I think in some respects is horrible anyway to tell a child, but we'll get into that. And I just deadpan when they are eating, they've got those flies. And my mum was like mortified. She was like, "You were like 5." And to this day, she keeps reminding me of that. And sometimes I find it really hard to like emotion. Like I think I'm quite good at shutting off emotion, and it's not great. Especially, it's not great. I think when you're in a relationship, like Tom is he's very empathetic. He wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
Like he can't watch like DIY SOS without sobbing. And I'm very like there's very few films that have made me like
what are they?
Cry. Weirdly enough, and I think it's because I was tired. The Notebook.
Right. Mine's Marley and Me.
Oh, okay.
the
Yeah,
only
a
one
lot
of
of
it.
people will get.
It's the only one.
The only one.
The only one.
Yeah, yeah.
Who would have thought that Owen Wilson would have been the one to deliver the monologue to a dog that would
That would get you.
Like, again, the bubble, and then the bubble burst.
Yeah. Yeah. And at school, like they used to say to me, if I was dating someone, I would just end it because I just knew it wasn't serving me, instead of just carrying on for the sake of like everyone going, oh, you guys are great together. And at high school, the girls, there was a song played at the school disco and they were like all pointing at me, and it was, you're as cold as ice. And they were like, you're just so cold. And I'm like, but they were like, but it's weird because you're not cold, you're very personal, very easy to chat to, but with certain things you're very like,
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, I don't think that's, sometimes I think that's a bit of a weakness.
Shall I tell you what it is? I had a thought while you were talking about it then. When you feel emotions, it hurts. And you know, like when your mum is looking, I thought about when you told me about your mum. And is it potentially a bit of envy? I'm hurting here. How are you not hurt? And then they feel like maybe that's a little bit of, yeah. Feel this with me.
Yeah.
I can't just be feeling this by myself.
Yeah.
Come in here with me.
Yeah.
And it's like a little bit of resentment, like,
yeah,
oh, you just get to swan through this emotionally traumatic situation. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of shaming for the way that you process things, and you know, you obviously don't process things in the same way. I don't. But if people are really hurt by something, fine, but I'm dealing with it in a different way.
Yeah,
and that's all it is. It doesn't mean I'm a dickhead.
Yeah, no, I think it is that. I think I process it in a different way. Like I process probably anger easier. Like I can quite easily flare up.
Well, anger is very straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very what's it called, like chimp mentality.
It's like, very sure. I deal with anger. I go straight to anger when I'm very upset, and I don't deal. This is the weakness. I'm not able to deal with emotions as they happen, so I don't vent. I don't vent very well.
Yeah.
I don't go, you're upsetting me. I go, I can take it. I can take the emotional burden.
But then do you like chew on it? Like if I'm in an argument, like Tom and I very rarely argue.
Yeah.
But if something builds up, it's quite funny because he always like, I want to know what it is that I've done to upset you, or like what's going on. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stew on it for a few days. And then it's going to blow up completely out of proportion. And I'm going to really regret that.
I don't feel that way. I wish I could. I almost wish I could communicate. I don't. I almost feel like a misplaced responsibility to people, like, because I feel like I see the emotional world around me and empathize with it so well. I have this, like, again, fear of bullying. I genuinely feel like there's certain people, and I hold in my hands your self-esteem, and I could tell you the truth, I could just crush it. All that I want is for you to respect me enough to know that I could crush it at any moment, but I won't. And then I kind of put it in my pocket, and I feel like I have my finger on the nuke button all the time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because there's been a couple of times when I really just wanted to tell someone the truth, and I'm getting a little bit better at it, but I want to tell you the truth, but I know that I'm cutting right to the issue here. And
you know they can't necessarily deal with it.
And it's usually the people that may be a little bit underbaked in the adult department.
Yeah.
And it comes across, and then you're like, you need to tell the truth so that I can feel good about this, or I can sit with my emotions, or I can offload my emotions. But I know that if I do that, you're not capable of doing that. I'm more capable, so I'll take the burden.
Yeah.
So it's like a misplaced responsibility for other people's feelings.
Yeah, that's
so I'm not bullying people.
Yeah.
But then eventually they piss me off so much.
It just comes out.
And it just comes out, and then they're like, oh, where did that come from? I'm like, you've been pissing me off for like a year, man.
Read the signs.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. I'm trying to get a little bit better at it, but And then what also happens, I'm not very good at regulating my my emotions, and then when I lose it, I don't have control, and then I go to real anger, and that's what I'm really fearful of. Is it's the Hulk, isn't it? Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just I just rampage, and
Yeah.
and then I'm left feeling like I just lost control, and I fucking hate it. I left like, because I know that emotionally I could say the most cutting things. Physically, I can smash the place and be quite scary, and I'm just left feeling like I'm a real piece of shit.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's not good for my self-esteem.
Yeah, it doesn't do good for anyone, does it? I think, and all the occasions where I've flared up, and it has been at work, it's done me no favours. Like, people have literally I've basically fed them the narrative that they've always wanted, which is an absolute nutcase of a woman. Oh, typical woman. She's like on a period, or... I remember there was one time where this guy pulled onto site in a big lorry, and I was project managing, and I was pregnant, and I got my tripod set up, and the kit on the tripod's really expensive, and this lorry turned in, and I like waved as if to say, stop the lorry. You can't just drive onto a construction site. It's like one of the most dangerous places to be. And he just ignored me. And then as he drove past me and the kit, like the wheel of this like Arctic was probably that much away from my kit, and any vibrations send the kit off anyway, like calibration. So as an engineer, you just really hate it when anyone's close, like machinery or whatever. But just completely disregarded me waving to him to say, pull your window down, let's have a chat. Drove onto site.
Did he make eye contact with you?
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah, he couldn't have missed me. Drove onto site, and I just absolutely lost it. And the guys said, they were like, I was working with Geordies, and they're lovely guys, but you wouldn't want to meet them down a dark alley, you would run. They were like brick shit house, and there were two brothers and the dad, and they're hilarious, but equally, you know, get in fights and have their jaws wired shut and all sorts. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And they just watched me from afar go. And I can't remember, I knew I swore a lot and it didn't do me in good stead. And I basically was shouting at this guy to get out the truck. Like I was like, get out of here, get out. And I don't know what in my I think it must have been hormones. What was I going to do? Beat the, you know, it's a massive Lithuanian guy. What was I going to do? Beat him up. I was 8 months pregnant. And apparently, so I was like going at, and I can't remember what I said, which is no, I was in that zone where you just uncontrollable. He went
white hot rage.
Yeah, he didn't even load. He just drove off site, and then 20 minutes later I got, Michelle, we've had a complaint about you. And I was like, it's the first time ever. And I was like, yeah, I know what it's about. And then that all came out. And the second time was actually recently on the ring road. There was some work being done, and as you pull out of our estate, you have to turn left, because if you try and cross over the dual, it's not a dual carriageway, but it's 2 lanes. Yeah. It's really dangerous. You just can't do it. It says you have to turn left, and people get lazy. They don't want to go to the island and go back down. And there's a construction worker in front of me, and they're all working on the road. And he got his blinkers on, and I honked the horn, and he could see. And I was like, "You're ignoring me." And I was like doing this, and a woman from the side on the pavement went over and knocked on his door and went, "You can only turn left." And he ignored her, and she was like an old lady, and I was like, "You arsehole."
Yeah.
So he pulled out, so eventually I put my hand on the horn to say, look, you cannot go. So he pulled left, went up to the island, obviously got really chuffed off that I had like forced him to, you know, not be dangerous. And he came down the road, and I was following him going to work, and he pulled off into the side lane. He let 2 engineers out. And then as I drove past, he was like giving it like, you like really aggressive. So I was like, right. So he pulled out in front of me, and we're going down, and then he turned right. So if you imagine it a loop, I needed to go to work. So going that way, I'd have had to do the same journey again. But I was like, I was going to be late for it. I was like, screw it. So he pulled down, I pulled behind him. And at the time I'd got the protection of my truck, I guess. I pulled up next to him, and as he put the window down, I let him have a word. I was like, who's your project manager? And he was like, what? And I was like, you've got a blue hat. I said, so tell me who your project manager is. And I think instantly he was like, shit, she works in construction.
She knows, yeah.
Yeah, she knows what the deal is. And then I just laid into him, and I was like, you could have killed someone. I know that your traffic management system, you should know. And I went full-blown psychopath on this guy. But a guy had died on that road 12 months before. Lots of kids are up there. Like, and I just had this like, no, you are not going to be that person that I've worked with that gets away with something just because you can't be asked. But then also, his reaction to me, that chimp mentality of like having a go at me on the road and like trying to make me feel like, you know, he shouldn't have been like shouting and effing and blinding. Like, he's got a job to do and it should be professional.
Yeah.
And he went from hero to zero. Like he went, I'm really, really sorry. And he was massive. It could have gone two ways. It could have gone me getting absolutely picked on.
Yeah.
And those are the only two times I really lost it. And afterwards, I kind of regretted it and been like, well, I could have not shouted at him at the start and just said to him, look, mate, what you've done is really dangerous. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's the experience of construction of thinking like somebody like that wouldn't have listened if I'd have just been like, excuse me, would you mind next time not doing that? I don't know. But afterwards I was like, oh, you're such a dick.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something missing in society at the minute. There's nothing, or there's going to jail. Yeah. There's no ability to check people. There's no way to really, there's no way to really go to someone. You don't fucking behave like that.
Yeah.
Don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's fair enough, it's fair enough, because I feel like everyone's so selfish. Oh, well, who the fuck are they?
Yeah.
I think there's so much of that.
Yeah.
And no one's willing to take that from people on the street. No one really has any respect for one another. And it's difficult to know how to approach difficult situations with people that you don't already know.
Yeah, like I feel like years ago, there used to be like the older generation you looked up to, and if someone went, oi, like I remember throwing stones as a kid at cars when I was little, and someone, a local guy was just like, you cannot do that, that's disrespectful, and you took it and you were like, oh, shit. Like somebody else could tell you off. Because now, I wouldn't tell somebody else's kid off. I feel like I can't. I'm like, that's other territory.
I know, yeah, that's dangerous territory, but sometimes people need fucking bollocking, don't they?
Yeah.
We don't need to bring back bullying, but we do need to bring back bollockings.
Yeah.
But then it's so difficult to know where you stand with other people and defending your actions. If you're defending your actions, like, especially if you lose your temper, and the real, I had an issue. This is where I lose my confidence with it. I know, if I go into something like that, if I go into a confrontation, I have to know I'm right.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing it, you're getting it. And I'm not going to shout. I'm going to go, do you think that's acceptable? I'm all right at it. I know how to have difficult conversations. But when I get in trouble off the back of that for challenging someone, which has happened a couple of times.
Right.
And people go, oh, you know, it's especially if they're like a bit of a bully themselves, or like they play the victim card, or so that's when I can become a bully. If I'm being stern with someone, if I stand over someone and I go, what were you doing there? And I lower my voice, I can become a bully, and people can paint that picture quite easily. Yeah. And sometimes it's been used against me. It's like, I actually had a real point there. I actually had a real point. And it happened at the gym with a member. And this person stormed off in the middle of a class. And I went over, and it made a whole scene that everyone just stopped what they were doing. And I went over and I went, I don't care. They went, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry about this. They already had their excuses. Oh, I've been going through this. Don't care. You can't behave like that. You're an adult. You're an adult and you're behaving like that. You can't do that. It ruins the whole class. And other people are there and they're trying to train, and now you've made it about yourself. And that is a completely fair point.
Yeah, justified, yeah.
I got complained about, and I was like...
By that person?
Yeah.
Who acted... that's, yeah.
But then, you know, this is where the issue is. We're walking around with adults, and you as an adult have the same rights and the same clout as me, even though you're a child.
Yeah.